insert the words printed on the marshalled list.
My Lords, I rise to speak to Amendment 29 and 30, standing in my name, and I fully appreciated, as I prepared my thoughts ahead of this short speech, that a large part of what I was going to say might be rendered redundant by the noble Lord Allen of Hallam, with whom I haven't had a discussion about this group at all, but it was clear that his amendment is rather different to mine, but it's addressing the same problem, and we're coming at it slightly differently. I do actually support his amendment, and if it were to pass, I think if the government were to adopt it, I think the situation would be greatly improved. But I do, in fact, prefer my own, and I think he's put his finger on it to some extent, because mine is a little bit broader. His relates specifically to public information, whereas mine relates to what it can be described more as the public good. So it can be a little bit broader than simply information services, and I haven't limited it in my case to non-commercial operations, though I fully appreciate that quite a lot of the services that we're discussing in practice are non-commercial. So, as I say, if his amendment were to pass, I'd be relatively satisfied. I have a moderate preference for my own. Wikipedia has been mentioned frequently, and the government can't say they haven't had notice of this problem, because it was frequently mentioned in committee, and the fact that the government hasn't come forward with any suggestions at all, I can summarise what I think is their response in a moment, but they haven't come forward with any amendments to address this at all, I think is truly remarkable. There has been an open letter signed recently drawing attention to this problem, which includes not only the OpenStreetMap, which the noble Lord referred to, but also the Heritage Alliance, Inspire, which is a physics research platform operated by CERN, the Wellcome Sanger Institute, the Chartered Institute of Librarians and Information Professionals of Scotland, and Liberty. And they're all concerned about how they're going to operate. So it isn't simply them. They will be caught. Curiously, of course, the Taliban will not be caught, because the Taliban is going to benefit from the exemption that exists in Schedule 1, Clause 9C, as a foreign sovereign government. So they will not be in scope and Ofcom scope at all, but all of these people doing perfectly decent work are going to be chased down by our regulator. The Minister's answer has been in conversation with me, or no, not in conversation, actually at the dispatch box. The Minister did say that he did not think that Wikipedia would be in scope. But when pressed on this, both at the dispatch box and in private conversation, for which I'm grateful, he has said that that's his opinion, but it was a matter which was going to be decided by Ofcom. His assurance, in other words, at the dispatch box carries no weight, because the decision is to be made by Ofcom. And when I say, well, we could still pass these amendments, he says, well, we can't tell Ofcom what to do, they're independent. But the entire bill is telling Ofcom what to do, and of course Parliament can tell them that these services are not in scope. The bill specifies what services are and are not in scope, so of course we can say services of this character are not in scope. So I think it is actually pretty much a nonsense answer. It also, and I just want to raise this point, because although these organisations in many cases are non-profits, that doesn't mean they're not businesses. And businesses have to plan, they have to invest, they have to think about what they're going to do next. And if you're hanging there, absolutely uncertain, until Ofcom decides, because we in Parliament can't possibly take a stance on it and the government can't have a view, if you're waiting to decide Ofcom is going to make a regulatory decision which is of an existential character. Now, I know that businesses are constantly subject to the possibility of regulatory change in the future. But I do not know of any regulatory changes that are in the normal course of events that actually threaten your entire business model. They might threaten how it is you plan to make a particular product or what insulation you might have to put in a house that you're building. They don't actually put you entirely out of business, which is what this threatens to do. So I think that there is a very strong argument indeed for an amendment which actually takes these services out of scope, not only because it's a nonsense not to, but also because it really does threaten investment and planning and jobs and the things that go with that. Now, my amendment 29 and 30, just to turn to them briefly and explain what they do, have to be taken together. It's intended that they're taken together. 29 creates an exemption, and the terms of the exemption are stated very plainly in the words of the amendment, so I don't need to read them out. And 30, which again I don't intend to read out, creates what is being referred to as a rescue clause. In other words, it says Ofcom has the discretion to withdraw the exemption if it sees it in the public good to do so. So if any of these services were to start going rogue and behaving in a way that was contrary to the public interest or objectionable in terms of the way in which the bill operates and is intended to operate, Ofcom would be able to intervene and say that exemption no longer applies. If you get the exemption under Amendment 29, we can take it away under Amendment 30. And this is not unprecedented because this rescue clause has been copied almost cut and paste from the Gambling Act, where it exists. So this process of creating an exemption which can be withdrawn is not unprecedented, and I think this has great merit. So this is why I would recommend 29 and 30, while not wanting to be exclusive at all to 28. I do want to say this is not going away. Germany exempts non-profit organisations. France has recently passed similar laws to our own, laws with similar scope to our own, and has exempted those entities which are operating in the public interest. There's nothing strange about doing what I want to do and what the noble Lord Allen wants to do. And it won't go away because the consequences could be very, very severe. And it's not a question of, is Wikipedia going to close down? I think Wikipedia in the English language will probably survive all of this. It has a lot of people supporting it, a lot of volunteers working for it. But many of the minor languages, and just wait until the government finds out whether Welsh Wikipedia, the largest Welsh language website in the world, is going to survive, and what the consequences of that are, and what will the government say when they start getting letters? Oh, it's nothing to do with us. It's nothing to do with us. We had no answer to that. It's all a matter for Ofcom. This is a completely unsustainable position. It's indefensible for us in Parliament to let it pass, and it's completely unsustainable for the government. I really do think some action has to be taken.